we were talking about Van Halen, but we're actually going to talk about value creation for portfolio companies. And I have the amazing Crystal Ziegler here as well with us. And I kind of want to start with framing this a little bit because a lot of people feel like the best way to create value is through financial engineering. And right now it's a little different. The economy's changed, hold times are longer, and people are having to dig deeper into their playbooks for value creation. So we're going to drill into some really cool things around how to create value in your private equity portfolio companies with CRM and AI. We're going to share a whole bunch of research that we've done on this topic and some really cool examples that are real world ones. Today this is a part of a series, and today we're going to drill into one aspect, which is drilling into revenue engine, which is really cool. One of our research points says that the top portfolio companies get 205% more value creation with revenue engine diagnosis, like customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, things like that. We have some pretty cool examples in that. And it's really interesting to see how you can focus on two or three small things and see some fantastic results. And hopefully it'll change the way you look at how CRM and even AI can accelerate value creation, and how, if you're a portfolio company, you can get more out of your PE relationship. And also, we hope we can share how you can do the same thing as these companies have done, even faster with Microsoft AI. So speaking of Microsoft, my name's Chuck Ingram, but we have the amazing Crystal Ziegler, who is fighting illness to join us.
Oh, thank you, Chuck. Yeah, I'm on the tail end of a cold. Everything here in Texas is blooming. It's just all hitting me at once. So I apologize for my voice, but I am glad to be here today. We have great stuff to cover. Like Chuck said, I'm Crystal Ziegler. I'm a biz app specialist here at Microsoft. So I work with the Dynamics suite and CRM regularly. And congruentX has been a great partner for us here. We've had some really good success with them, and I'm glad to be here to share this message with them. So thank you, Chuck.
Absolutely. So Crystal focuses a lot on private equity, and she's too modest to say this, but had the opportunity to present a lot of the things she's been working with to a very large group of Microsoft people internally around private equity. So pretty exciting, the stuff she's doing. So some
You
of the things
sounded a
I
lot better
say,
that day too.
well, some of the things I will talk about that Crystal maybe would normally talk about, just because um, we can't think of the right Phoebe Cates when she was sick or something. So some of the things we're going to talk about today are is the typical playbook for PE, which is not really typical, but the playbook around value creation. We're going to talk about our research, which we spent a bunch of time on this, on what the top portfolio companies are doing with CRM. We're also going to share our data framework and how to use your data to accelerate value. We're going to talk a little bit about some things we've done with Microsoft technology. We call it our AI-fueled revenue accelerator. Getting into the details, we're going to talk about how you can take the friction out of data collection, how you can use AI to drive up those win rates and save your sellers time and drive your playbooks out into the field. We're going to talk about diagnosing your revenue engine with unit economics and things like that. And we're going to share some evidence from real portfolio companies. And we're going to go pretty deep on one particular example and talk about some things you can do to get started with some of these ideas. Right, Crystal? So as we mentioned in the introduction, more often than not, and I think so much less today, private equity is has been thought to focus on the buy side of the transaction. Um, Lately, the focus has been certainly more on value creation, and as I mentioned, especially given the hold times are being drawn out longer, so the operating partners are going to kind of dig deeper into their playbooks to try to help drive that value. Um, so it's often been a big focus on revenue and a big focus on implementing technology. The big problem we run into sometimes is the technology is implemented for tech sake only, and people don't get the results they're looking for. Um, the good news though is the when you do it right, when you implement CRM tech, you get about $9 back for every dollar you put into it, which is super exciting. The flip side is when you don't do it well, you about half the time people are not happy with it. We're going to talk about how folks cannot find themselves in that situation. So I borrowed this slide and many of the concepts we will talk about from the smart people at Winning by Design. And so different private equity firms invest in companies that are at different places in their journey, and where you are in your journey affects kind of the playbook that the private equity firm will bring forward. Earlier on, they'll be focused on helping you get to product market fit. A little later, they'll try to help you get to what we call go to market fit, which is going to help you scale your sales motions and things like that. And after that, we're going to try to systemize everything and get into a little bit more growth mode. So, generally speaking, as well, a private equity firm, and if you're the portfolio company, is going to come in with a great deal of focus on the revenue engine right now. And interestingly, the portfolio companies have operated with a focus on like their widget, their thing, their manufacturing process, their plant, and really haven't been as focused on the revenue engine often when they get associated with a private equity company. And what we mean by that is if, let's say, you're a manufacturer, I bet that company could tell you every piece about their manufacturing process. It's been their baby. They know what's the slowest machine in the plant, what's the fastest machine, and they know that if they can tweak that slowest machine, they can increase the whole throughput. But when it comes to revenue, sometimes we don't have that same depth of knowledge or understanding when things are gonna happen and not happen. And one of the things we hope to accomplish today is to show you how the top firms are diagnosing their revenue engine like they would a manufacturing plant to drive predictable revenue, just like they have predictable manufacturing or services businesses. Make sense?
Yeah, and Chuck, I think one of the great things about all those different uh, strategies that they're implementing is a lot of those are things that Microsoft can help with. Those are
Mm-hmm.
directly what our solutions are made to do. So, yeah,
100%,
works out together.
100%.
Yeah.
So the part of the playbook a lot of times, and I've probably been to 100 private equity firms' websites and and talked to a whole bunch as well. And everyone has their own secret sauce and methodology and playbook that they bring to bear. But generally speaking, there'll be something in there where you bring in like a fractional CRO or have the firm hire a chief revenue officer, and then you bring in you try to what's your where have you been successful, what's your ideal client profile, develop a go-to-market strategy and develop playbooks around that. Where we have some trouble is sometimes we don't know what those playbooks are, what's working and what's not working, because we have bad data in our systems, primarily CRM. And I watch Premier League on Sunday mornings, and the best coaches, whether you like their team or not, the best coaches, maybe arguably is Pep from Man City, and it's almost like Pep not being able to be on the field with the team. It's almost like the coach saying, "Okay, here's the plan. Now go out on the field," and the coaches has to stay in the locker room and can't see what's going on. And that's what a lot of our chief revenue officers are up against these days. Guess I could have said like Bill Belichick or some more relevant example. And if you think about it, this chief revenue officer sounds like an amazing title, and it is an amazing opportunity. But what's happening is you come in, you got to make some promises to the board. The board says that sounds great. Let's add 10 points to what you just said, and you can't hire any more people. But go implement your plan. And this CRO goes and implements their growth plan and their go-to-market strategy, and they've got about 18 months is what we're seeing that their tenure on average is to get their plan working. So that's where you always like to think of primary constraints, or let's say the big domino. The big domino is getting your data into CRM. And it's a lot more important than people think it is, because if we don't have the data, we can't see what's going on. We can't see what's working. And next thing you know, the private equity firm has made big investments and is not getting the value creation they're hoping for. And this is where Microsoft can kind of come in to help us accelerate value in a shorter time than it's taken in the past.
Yeah, for sure. Chuck, I really love this slide because it shows a lot of the different areas that we've been recognized in, and we've even had a few more. One thing to call attention to on the bottom is the R&D spend. If you look at how much Microsoft is investing in our products, we really are one of the big leaders. I think when you think about AI today, you think about Microsoft, and we want to continue to be a leader in that space. So when you look at that R&D spend and then you compare it to the market cap of some of our competitors, it's just we're always going to be able to invest more because we do have that global presence. So I think that's one thing that really sets Microsoft apart and makes us worth betting the future of the company on, is that we're always going to be on that forefront cutting edge.
100%. I think Microsoft has brought scale to AI early in the journey that's put us so far ahead of where we would be if it was just a bunch of startups trying to do it before. So it's super exciting. And I'm hoping for if we have operating partners on from PE firms, or if we have folks from portcos on, you can kind of look at some of this research we share and say, hey, could we use this AI from Microsoft to accelerate what these guys did in the past and do it in a fraction of the time? And that's really the goal here. Okay, starting first, the big domino is getting good data in CRM. And we haven't shown this before in this format, so feel free to take a screenshot. This is our value creation data framework. And basically what we want to do is take the friction out of data collection. So if you think about it, I think Salesforce says that 91% of CRM data is bad. And a lot of that is because people just they're busy, they don't have time to type it in, or they don't want to type it in, or they put in their perception of, if Crystal and I both saw a car accident, we may have different descriptions of what happened. And the scary thing about data in CRM is those perceptions drive a lot more things than the individual it happened to. So people make decisions based on that data. So instead of doing CRM, I'm doing air quotes, We want to just take the friction out of that and use AI to just collect the data naturally. I sometimes think of the example where I love to take my dogs for walks. And when I go for a walk with my dogs, my watch just says, "Hey, looks like you're taking a walk." I don't get a 360-degree view of the neighborhood and the cats in the neighborhood and things like that. It just tracks the walk. I don't have to go fill out a form, and that's the way data is starting to happen. So step one is let's take all the friction out of data collection. Then we want to connect the data to your playbooks, to your other data that we can use it to enrich the experience, improve conversations with your pretend we're sending your bestseller in every call, those kinds of things. And we want to direct that data back to the users and the revenue leadership teams in context. We don't need to have giant forms to fill out. We just need to give people the information based on what they're doing. And then finally, the part we're going to spend a lot of time on today is diagnosing the data and using these three models. One is the go-to-market model. The second one is the engagement model, or your playbooks. And the last one is the data model. That's, think in terms of manufacturing, that's your shop floor. Like, we want to look at what's the machine that's kind of smoking a little bit and going slow, because our whole plant can only go as fast as the slowest machine. That's science. So let's start with data collection. So we talked about 91% of data being bad in the average CRM system, and that came from the CRM industry. It actually came from Salesforce. And what's worse yet is, I think the folks from Gartner or Forrester have told us that data decays annually, so that makes it doubly bad. So what we want to do is we've seen from the top portfolio companies is they use data to win, and they make collecting data easy a priority. And what has changed over the last 20 years is, if I sort of went to a CRM implementation conference room where they're about to do a project, and I walked in with my new, this one's the Galaxy, but it could be the new Apple phone and things like that. People go, "Holy mackerel, that's crazy. I can't believe you can do all those things." But then if they're doing the CRM project today, they would still build these big forms. And the difference is the experience we're trying to drive for people, which is contextual experiences instead of forms over data experiences. So here's a really cool story about a Portco. It's a company called, when we first met them, they were called US Lumber. Now they're called Specialty Building Products. They had an investment from a private equity company called Madison Dearborn. And, when you get investment, there's some stimulus to grow, and so, an urgency to grow. But before they had met us, they had the idea to let's go implement CRM. And they tried it with one CRM, and they were in the midst of trying it with Salesforce, and then they were in the midst of trying it with Dynamics, and it sort of stalled out. And their former consulting partner had implemented forms over data approach, kind of the old school way. And you think about these folks, they're in the construction business, they're about to go in a lumber yard or in a Home Depot store or something, and they've got a 7-foot long form to look at. Well, that wasn't a very good experience for the users, and they didn't get very good data back. So after we did a quick design thinking session, I see Chris is on this call. Chris Cognetta built a rapid prototype, which showed them what they could realize with a contextual, low-code, intelligent Power App. And they got super excited about it. We started the implementation. They got the first impact in about a month, and They continue to build on it to this day. And the client has a super special team that views their tech as a product, not just a project, and they keep improving it. The interesting thing is the average seller uses this formerly abandoned technology 60 times per day. They make whatever 8, 12 calls a day, but they use the tech 60 times a day. So that means this seller who used to just use CRM in their hotel room at night has got this CRM in their hand as they're walking around talking with the client and adding value to the client. They know what's on the truck. It's super exciting, and they actually won Home Depot Innovation Partner of the Year. Pretty cool, right? So remember I talked about the Apple Watch example a minute ago. The Apple Watch knows I'm going for a walk. What if you're in Outlook and your Outlook has AI built into it that says, hey, looks like this email is from Crystal and she's a client. You want to keep track of it? Sure. That's literally what this tech is doing. And by the way, here's some background information about Crystal you might want to consider in how you respond. By the way, you want me to help you write the email response for it? So Microsoft calls this AI assistant Copilot for Sales. And it's kind of taken the industry by storm. It works with Salesforce. It works with Microsoft Dynamics, either one that your portfolio companies might have.
Yeah, and then like you were saying, once it's been connected, it automatically tracks that conversation. So if you're having some back and forth, it's not like the seller
Mm-hmm.
has to worry about documenting each time. It's really convenient. You don't have to think about it anymore. It's already in CRM.
You just do your stuff and it tracks it, like the watch. The other thing that a lot of us do, especially since COVID, we never really totally went to office and in person for all meetings, and we have a lot of teams meeting, and this is another place where Copilot for Sales can help us. It can record the conversations, which is a becoming more commonplace, but it actually gives you insights about those conversations that you can use in your sales process or in becoming better and in your follow-up with your clients. And since it also lives in teams, we can use Teams to chat with our coworkers as this person is in this thing and get help. So we work in the consulting business and my firm, and we like to think of it as our clients get not just the person they're working with, but they get the knowledge of the whole team because we're all so connected. And finally, as Crystal said, those activities just get flowed right into CRM. As Chris says, it lights up your CRM so that we have good data to work with as we engage with that client in the future, or as our leadership team wants to see if we're spending our time with the right clients, or if we want to, if Crystal and I are both sellers and they want to coach me up a little bit because they see maybe I'm talking too much on my calls or things like that, it can do that as well. So here's some tips that we kind of looking at all these results from these portcos. Here's some tips. So just because your consulting partner says you need a 360-degree view, take a deep breath and think about that. It doesn't mean you need to have giant CRM forms. Think about the task or the job that you need to do and that the person's trying to do at that particular moment, and think about what do they need to help take that job and make it functional, easy, and enjoyable instead of having a big form to look at. So we want to take the friction out of data collection and deliver back to that person insights. Here's another use case, another portco. We're going to talk about sort of 3 scenarios where in our research it says private equity portfolio companies, salespeople can make a big difference if they improve before the call. So before the call, We learned that the average buyer thinks that sellers are unprepared for the conversations 82% of the time. Anybody believe that? Probably. We go call to call to call to call. It's hard. Yeah, we have some hands coming up. So interestingly, during the call, we learned that the quality of the conversations, quality of the questions we asked is directly proportionate with the effectiveness of the call. You can get about a 74% increase in win rate when a rep asks 11 questions in the discovery call. And you can double your close rate when you ask questions about the impact that the customer is going to get instead of just asking sort of situational questions. We also learned that after the call, if you send an email within a half an hour, you get twice as high of a response, and the conversion, the sales cycle time, which, as we know, are all getting longer, is 21% shorter. Just by doing those things. And if you can use AI to help you craft that email, it can literally save your seller 23 hours every single month. I just like those stats, Crystal.
I think those are, yeah, definitely accurate and much more helpful when you have a co-pilot at your side.
That's for sure. So this research is not exciting, but we're going to talk about how you can do something about it. So right now, we're spending about $80 billion every year on revenue-focused technology. What we are seeing is a 41% increase in sales emails sent, and unfortunately, a lot of people are spamming and sending them with AI, but literally every other metric is going in the wrong direction. Win rates are off. Reps making quota is off. The average deal value is off. The average sales cycle is up. And that's what we turned up in our research. But I think the good news is when you use AI, I think we can help enable our sellers not just to be more efficient, but to be more effective and kind of turn these things around. So we talked about Sales Copilot. Sometimes you could just ask it, what if you have a meeting? Just ask me to help me prepare for today's meeting. And you can kind of see on the screen, it's looking up some information from past meetings, from information you have in your CRM database, which is pretty cool. Our firm, congruentX, we've built an add-on solution for Sales Copilot that enriches that data and helps us prepare for the meeting. And Chris has done a whole bunch of really cool stuff with this solution that helps shape, Sales Copilot's going to help us take the friction out of the data, but it's going to help us shape what happens on those calls so they become much more effective phone calls. And we're going to show how, in just a few minutes, how one client is using that to generate millions of additional dollars of revenue. This particular client is using this tech to earn back a day a week for their sellers, which is really cool. This firm, SRB, they help companies get wage reimbursements from the IRS, and it's a tricky thing. So if you hire new sellers, they're having to bring extra people on calls. They're a fast-growing company, and they were spending a lot of time entering data about the calls and emails with clients, and the reps were kind of thinking through these conversations a little too much and having to bring extra people on the calls. The cool things is Sales Copilot and our solution, Dialogue Copilot, that works with Sales Copilot, actually takes the friction out of entering the data in CRM, but it also helps them execute the calls by themselves instead of bringing additional people on the call. So they think that it saves them nearly a day a week. They don't have to work Saturday to do that. and they're being more effective as well. Pretty cool, right? And here's some
I
stats for what,
I was gonna say
these
I'd
are
like an
broad.
extra day a week.
I would like to have an extra day a week as well. So here's the tips is use Sales Copilot and our extension to Sales Copilot to collect data and help your reps have better sales conversations to walk out your value creation playbooks. And this one is the one we're going to spend a little extra drill down on today, where we're going to use AI to collect PE relevant data. And there's some interesting research here, really, really interesting research. And so start with a question is, how do I lift revenue with tech on the CRM front? And if you do that, you can a lot of times see significant revenue increases and increases in close rates. But let's talk about how we can do this. And let me say it this way. A lot of times, if you're looking at buying a new CRM or any new piece of tech, you'll get these, okay, if you do this, you'll get 80% increase in revenue. If you do this, you get 150% increase in this and 70% increase. Pretty soon, it feels like all I have to do is buy CRM and I'm going to be the next Tesla or Microsoft or whatever. And it really doesn't work that way. It's a combination of the tech and applying the tech, almost like the way that you see manufacturers apply it and focusing our efforts together. I learned a little bit about statistical process control when I was in college, and I never thought I would see it again. But I worked for a company called Milliken, amazing company. They made us all, every employee had to learn statistical process control. I couldn't do it again right now, I don't think, but it showed the company's commitment to quality and the manufacturing process. So we want to take some of that exact same process and apply it to our revenue engine like it was a manufacturing plant in the private equity space with our portfolio companies. Interestingly, what we're about to show, only about a fourth of PE-backed companies collect this data and use it right now. And you're going to see how the effect can be almost astonishing when you apply it the right way. So I mentioned winning by design. I want to continue to mention the great work that they do in terms of visualizing your revenue engine, not just like a pipeline, but as a bow tie, and a bow tie so that we can look at it, the value to get a customer and the value to keep a customer, and look at things from a unit economics perspective. And what they do is they recommend you look at your revenue engine across like this bow tie, but you kind of think about there's some stages in it that they think about. Awareness. Oh man, I think I have a problem. 2 is there something that can help me? 3 is, can your company help me? The Portco help me? 4 is, did you make it easy? 5 is, did I get an impact? Did I get a measurable impact by that thing? 6 is, wow, what else can they do to help me? And that engine, we measure it across 3 variables. And the first one is volume. How many outcomes did we get in each stage? So how many leads did we get in the awareness part of the funnel? Velocity is how fast did they go through it? And conversion, which ones went from awareness to education? Which ones went from education to selection? And I want to show you why this is so important. So let's say you're doing a justification to your board of directors for some tech that you need to spend. And they're going to ask, they're not dummies. They're going to ask, well, how are you going to turn this? And I know white paper said that people that implement CRM get a big return on investment. But what are you going to do with this? So we worked with a company who they spend a lot of money to get people to call into their call center, where they work to convince them to buy the thing that they sell. This is ongoing right now, so I won't talk about the company name at this time. Hope we can at some point. But this is some anonymized information from their case, and basically we offered up 7 opportunities to increase revenue and of effectiveness, and where we identified constraints and together, and we picked 3 together. And remember, I said a system is limited by its slowest component. So if we have a factory, the slowest machine determines the speed of the whole factory. So we picked the 3 slowest machines to work on. And the first one was cross-selling. So they or successfully cross-sell about 13.5% of the time. Our benchmark said that, man, it'd be great if we could get that up to 15%. We identified a solution for that and put that on the list. The next one is closure rate. They were closing about 26% of the time, and our benchmark said that they should be closing a little closer to 32% of the time. So we said, well, how can we affect that? Well, one, it's a contact center. So what if Costco put in a call center down the street? What if Amazon put in a call center down the street and agents are turning over? And that little 5 minutes on the phone with that prospect is their only shot. So they need to improve that conversation the most they can. So we've positioned Dialogue Copilot with them to help shape that conversation and make sure that the people on the phone drive that conversation the right way. I hear lots of podcasts where revenue leaders will say, well, I only have so much time to listen to gong calls every day. Well, the beauty of this solution that these folks are implementing is they don't have to listen to every call. They only listen to the outliers. If you're driving through the Serengeti, you don't care that there's so much that there's these sets of eyes walking by, because that could be a zebra. You want that red set of eyes that's the lion that's walking by. So they're going to be able to see the outliers that they need to focus on. The third one is while people fill out forms or either call them direct, they don't always get to talk to them. So how do they figure out if somebody tried to contact them and left a phone number and they couldn't reach them, pretty much that was it. So the third solution is we're building sequences and multi-channel sequences to help them think through how they can drive increased connection with those clients. And this down below is how we'll get there. There's a whole lot of detail behind that, but each quarter they're going to implement one of these sprints focused specifically on one of these opportunities that they're focused on. So for the first one in Q2, they're going to focus on the cross-sell opportunity, and maybe they'll get only a 0.5% that first quarter. They'll course correct and get 0.7 the next quarter and 2.2 the next quarter. And then they'll do the same thing with the other 2 opportunities. And within a year, they're pretty excited because their numbers, and this is just little tiny 1 or 2% improvements in 3 places, they're going to get in their numbers about $16 million increase in annual gross revenue from these post-go live sprints using Microsoft AI. And this is calculating not one single new marketing lead. They probably will get some more marketing leads, right? And if you get more people on the phone, and you've increased your close rate and your upsell rate, you actually will get more revenue that way too. These things are kind of exponential, but we haven't calculated that way for this particular scenario. We want to be conservative. That's pretty incredible. And what they're spending on this tech is not 1/15th of less than 1/15th of this. So it's when you do this the right way, it's amazing the results you can get. So now let's talk about what we covered. We talked about how you can use Microsoft AI to get your data in CRM. We talked about how we can help your portfolio companies drive their plays out into the field to help the team deliver better and more consistently before, during, and after interactions. We talked about how to use your data to see across your revenue engine and diagnose your revenue engine and act on it to create value. That's what we want for private equity, right? Value creation. Make sense? So let me ask you a question. So I never wore glasses when I was little, but that's not far from me when I was a kid. I think my head was bigger. I looked more like Phil Collins, if you ever seen him. A big round, or Charlie Brown. So how many people are excited about what we covered? A couple people laughed. And it doesn't look that way anymore. It gets different shape. How many people are excited about what we covered? It was a lot though, right? So is it okay if I spend 5 minutes? I think we have time. Going over how you can learn more? Okay. So you can continue to dive in more on this. This is a series of webinars. If you take a picture of the little, you scan the little dinosaur guy, the T-Rex, Max, the T-Rex, it'll take you to a Sales Copilot ROI calculator. We also have a website dedicated just to private equity and to portcos. If you just type in your browser, getvaluecreationright.com, it has the same calculator. It has some case studies. It has all kinds of goodies. It has one pager. If you want to learn, if you check that out and you want to learn more and you want to do something about this, if you were on this webinar, we will do a free 2-hour envisioning session with a portco and or with a private equity firm to help you think through how AI can help your business in a tangible way. We only want to work when there's a tangible opportunity to help people grow their business. So there's 2 things you can scan and connect with us. And one of the things you'll see there is this beautiful one pager on our envisioning lab where we bring people together from multiple different roles. We do design thinking. It's kind of a mini version of what we did with our friends at Specialty Building Products, US Lumber. We work on their key processes. We identify digital friction and we rapidly prototype a solution with Microsoft AI that ideally we turn that friction into fuel. And we'll give you a blueprint for what you can do with Microsoft AI to go create value. Make sense?
Yeah, I see we have a question here in the chat asking if it's really possible to achieve these revenue uplifts. And so I just wanted to point out that yes, not only is it possible, but Chuck and the team will guarantee the results. So yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit more, Chuck?
We do. We don't lead. Thank you for sharing that. We don't lead with that, of course. That's but we do for our clients. If we get to go through the envisioning session, and we do require that we get to talk to the business, IT, and users. If we can do that and we're all open about numbers, we actually will put skin in the game, work with our clients to help them achieve the numbers. And that means we stay connected after you do your initial engagement. We stay connected, and we have a little subscription that we do with our clients, and we put our money where our mouth is. For too long, people have done CRM projects where literally it's 50% success chance. It's not okay. 50% chance, 50% is not okay if you're a doctor and the patient's limping out 50% of the time, or if Crystal's got a cold right now, if it gets worse 50% of the time, if you're an Uber driver and the guy hits the guardrail 50% of the time. So we literally are doing something about it, and we stay in the boat with our clients. And one of the ones we showed, we have a guarantee to help that client get to those outcomes that we talked about.
Yep. And I think that's one of the things that makes this approach so friendly for private equity companies and portcos is um, not only is it cost effective for them. Your startup doesn't have the initial cost. You can get that free envisioning session. So it's really easy to talk to the PE firms about the beginning of the project. And then towards the end, you have all of those numbers that they're looking for, those metrics, that data that shows that this is how it worked, why it worked, and what's going on with it. And so that's really what the PE firms are driven by is that data. So this is a great offering for portcos.
100%. Chris and I just talked to a portco yesterday, and the one of the drivers was value creation. Like, this portco cares deeply about working closely with their private equity partner to co-create value. And we're going to work with them, just like some of the cases that we talked about here, to create tangible ways that we can, where the tech can create business outcomes for the client that we can measure and work towards together. Excited about potentially talking to folks on this call more.
Yes, me too. Please reach out with more questions, and we're looking forward to working with y'all in the future.
Sounds great. Happy Thursday, everybody.
Bye, y'all.